Hey everybody, what have you heard about Prop 19? Well, together today with my good friend Keith Murphy, we're going to talk about some of the highlights of Prop 19 and give you some more information so you know the questions that you should be asking. This week with our good friend Keith Murphy, we're going to tell you what we know about Prop 19. As always, we always tell you we are not attorneys, nor are we CPAs. So if you have any questions about the information provided here, seek out a consultation with a trusted advisor, a trusted professional. So without further ado, Keith, let's dive right in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to get your opinion on Prop 19, Kelly, and get some feedback as the real estate professional here in the...
Okay, sure. So Prop 19...
I'm in Prop 19.
Okay, sure. Proposition 19 was passed in the last election in the fall of 2020. And this is a proposition that is going to allow people to take its portability of your assessed value on your personal residence. And what that means is for anyone who is disabled, and there is a California Civil Code section that defines disabled. And if you have lived in a lost your home due to the high fire hazard area, or if you are 55 or older, instead of the old rules that applied that said you could only move your tax basis once in your lifetime, and either within your own county or within a cooperating county, which Riverside County has always been one of those. Now it's expanded and you can do that up to 3 times in your life. So in other words, if you purchased your home 20 years ago and your assessed value is $250,000 and you want to go and purchase a $600,000 property, you can sell your home that is now worth $600,000 and you can purchase that $600,000 home and your $250,000 assessed value will be transferred over to the new home. So there are definitely rules about living in the property. You must live in the property. It must be your primary residence, and you can purchase a lesser priced home than what you sell for, or you can purchase higher priced. Now, if you purchased higher price, there is going to be an assessment on that difference between what you sell for and what you pay for the new home. So you're going to get the portability of the $250,000, but if you buy a $700,000 house, you're going to pay taxes on that $100,000 difference. So now your tax assessment value is going to be $350,000.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
That's totally, and it's exciting because I know with Prop 60 and 90, which this Prop 19 replaced, it was kind of frustrating because if a client was 55 or older and wanted to sell their home, take their equity to a new home, and if that new home was even $1 more in price than the one they sold, they couldn't transfer the tax. I heard you say is now there is no limit. It could be equal to, lesser, or more than the value of the departing residence. So that's really exciting. I also heard you say that there used to be limitations on counties that were participating, but now it's the entire state of California. Is that correct?
That is correct. And I believe there is a limitation on the difference between what you sell for and what you pay if you're a buying up buyer. I believe there's $1 million gap there. So in other words, you can that $1 million comes in somewhere. Again, this is something I'm not remembering the exact application of the $1 million limit. So this is something, again, that I would definitely say seek to get counsel on that if you have any questions whatsoever. And then as far as the next piece of it is that under the old prop, you were able to, when you die, pass on that property, or during your lifetime, pass on that property to your children or your grandchildren, as long as it was, related in the family. And that assessed value could remain the same. And if those children decided to rent that property out, that was fine. Not so anymore. And these laws have, there's February 16th is a date in here that under which things have to take place, or April 1st. So there's a lot of, even the California Association of Realtors Attorneys need to get clarification. So that's why I'm not going to say anything today under when these when exactly these dates are that these things go into effect. But April 1st is definitely in there as far as the big thing that everything's queued off of. But now under the new prop, the way it works is that if you pass on, you die and you pass on that property to your children or your grandchildren, they have to live in the property. There's the whole family home idea, when of course you always file a homeowner's exemption, which gives you the first $7,000 of your assessed value comes off the top of your assessment. Well, if those kids decide that they're going to turn that property into a rental, all bets are off. It's going to get reassessed.
I also, listening to that, I wonder, and you said that even the California Association of Realtors legal team is in flux as far as the definition of how some of these rules are going to be applied. But I was just thinking, okay, well, what if I live in $1 million home near the beach and my parents passed on and I inherited this property and I want to keep that tax base and I can work remotely? Could I rent out my $1 million beach home and relocate to Bakersfield if I physically moved in and lived in that property as my primary residence and filed the homeowner's exemption? Could I and would I be allowed to keep that exemption on their taxes? Or is the assessor going to judge that differently than someone who, say, if I was renting and then I inherited my parents' home and moved into it as my primary residence? I think it's interesting how this could be looked at in different, the law will be finalizing things, but on those dates, from what I read, I'm not sure. I think it's February 16th is when the inheritance and transfer between family for Prop 19 goes into effect, and I think it's April 1st for the resale, for sale and purchase of a new home transfer.
I believe you're correct, and the old prop will be still in place until then. So the way the new prop works is that if you sell a property, as long as you buy within 2 years, you're able to take that portability of the assessed value. So you could, for example, you could sell right now, but if April 1st is when this portability takes place for even buying a higher price property, that's when you have to do your purchases after that date. You can't, I don't believe you can close before. So that's where it's like, we need to get more definitive on those things. And that's why I just say, refer to a CPA or an attorney, real estate attorney, to be able to get exactly, if you're trying to look at doing something here in the first quarter, that's my best recommendation. As far as your hypothetical, you live in $1 million property in Huntington Beach and you want, or wherever, somewhere, beach town, and you inherit a property in Bakersfield and you want to move into the home in Bakersfield, which, sorry, why would you? But okay, you move into the property in Bakersfield and you decide you want to be a farmer, which, by the way, this portability or this assessment does take the transfer on the assessed values does apply to agricultural land, family farms.
And they don't have to be, if I read correctly, they don't have to be primary residence either. So if they're agricultural income producing farms,
right,
but you don't live on the property that's producing the agriculture or produce or whatever, that actually will be okay. You don't have to live in the farm.
Yes. Yes, that's correct, because there's a lot of agricultural land in this state that does not have a home on it. Nobody lives there. It's just agricultural land. People have their, their almond groves, their citrus groves, and their avocado groves. And, I mean, we've got this beautiful valley delta through the middle of the state of California, which really could feed the world if we wanted to. And so, no, that land is exempt, or it's not, it can be passed without being retaxed.
I think that's excellent.
Yeah. I come from a farming, an agricultural background, in as much as my family, a great deal of them are cattle ranchers in the state of Montana, the great state of Montana. And that is what has enabled those longtime ranching families to be able to maintain being on that land, raising beef cattle, and being still able to make a profit. Now, most of them are not profitable enough to be able to support the whole family like they used to. Many times you'll see one or the other of the husband or wife or the kids are out working and they're bringing home bacon to help, maintain the family farm. But if you're used to that way of life and living on a cattle ranch, it does have a certain charm about it, and there's just that freedom of living in that agricultural community that's what keeps those people going, and that's what keeps them going back and working on those ranches year after year. And hey, thank God for that. Otherwise we'd be paying 15 or 20 bucks a pound for any beef that we want to eat. So just my little 2 cents worth on that.
So Kelly, let me recap here, make sure I'm hearing and understanding everything correctly. Prop 19 is in effect going to replace Prop 60 and 90. So the transfer of property, there's no restrictions on the counties or cities or where you can do it. Correct. There isn't a rule that says you have to buy an equal or lesser value. You can now purchase something more, carry your tax base over, but there's going to be some sort of formula. You have to pay tax at departing residence value and the new higher value. There's going to be a step up equation that we don't have 100% clarity on. But if you're 55 and older, there's going to be more options and opportunities to be able to sell and purchase new real estate up to 3 times and carry these taxes over so that you can afford to live in a new home that you want. Is that about right?
Yes. And for those folks who have been displaced by the wildfires, it's unlimited during their lifetime, as well as for folks who are disabled. So, you might think, oh, well, why would a disabled person need to move that many times? Well, it may indeed be that they need to purchase a home for themselves to go from a 2-story to a single story, and later that they need to help purchase a home that, maybe it's going to be a next gen type of property where there would be, a home for a place for them to live, accessory dwelling unit, for example, or main floor home, bedroom and bathroom, and then the rest of the family lives with them, and there's a caretaker type of situation. As we've seen more and more next gen type of properties being built, where there's a little apartment on the main floor and it's got its private entry, and then you've got families are making different decisions about how they're going to live and take care of their elderly and that sort of thing. So and then it may be that that person needs to sell that and move on to yet another property, and you just don't know. So it's got a lot more flexibility, but then there are some limitations. So again, if you're inheriting property, or if you're going to be selling and buying using these the terms of Prop 19, yes, I was thinking Prop 90. Prop 19, I just recommend you talk to a CPA or talk to a real estate attorney and make sure that you've got your doing your transaction during the time where there could be any possible question about what's allowed.
Yeah, great information and exciting. And I just had a pop-up in my brain of all the active duty or former service members of the armed forces. A good percentage of them have some sort of awarded disability. So what I'm hearing is they could be moving around and selling homes and carrying their tax base with them on an unlimited limited basis if we need to get the color from the legal people and find out how the state of California finalizes Prop 19, but it definitely looks like a great opportunity for those that qualify.
Yes, yes, exactly. And a lot of people are wondering, well, what's the point of restricting the tax portability for when you transfer to a family member? Well, the idea is if on any of my rental properties, under the old props, I could pass on those rental properties to my children and they would not get reassessed. No longer so under Prop 19. My family, my primary residence, I can pass that to my kids. They move into it. It's their primary. Fine, no problem. My rental properties, I pass those on to my kids. They're going to get reassessed at full market value. And the idea here is that the state of California wants to see that as people inherit these properties, if they are unwilling to continue to pay the higher tax value, or if they don't want to pay at the higher assessed value, they're going to be selling these properties, and that's going to help create another piece of the market to be able to get more properties available for more families to potentially purchase.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Interesting take on that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's got a lot of moving parts, and again, just get legal advice, get advice from your CPA. So that's my best recommendation.